Welcome back to Obscurus Gaming, and today I'm playing Cuisineer. Released last month to the Switch. I picked up the day one physical version, which is pretty cool. Comes with an art book, a recipe manual, a CD, and a kitchen towel, which kind of makes sense. This is somewhat of a life sim game where you run a restaurant inherited by your parents in a small town. The main goal of the game is increasing the prestige of your restaurant while paying off your parents' debts in the process. But in order to get the supplies you need to upgrade your restaurant and gather ingredients, you need to adventure out of town, which is essentially a series of randomly generated dungeons. The game is played indefinitely over 4 seasons, which affects what special festivals appear on certain days or what shops are open. When the game first opens, like so many of these life sim experiences, you inherit something in a small town, somewhat against your will. In this case, again, it's your parents' restaurant, which the other town residents will tell you has been closed for a while. You start with next to nothing in your restaurant outside of a basic table and a few chairs. And in order to handle the onslaught of customers and raise your reputation, you'll need to expand. Outside your restaurant is a small town with residents who give you little collect quests and a few shops. The 4 main shops include an alchemist to buff your weapons, a smith to buy weapons and sell them, a tea shop for health potions, and a carpenter who sells furniture and upgrades your restaurant. There are also a handful of rotating shops depending on the day of the week, including a tailor, specialty sellers for rugs and plants, and a trader. Mostly the side quest rewards are new recipes to cook, and shops will help you expand your restaurant's furniture, weapons, or help you in combat. Speaking of combat, you'll spend about half the game, if not more, outside of the town and restaurant in 4 different dungeon locations. Each of these dungeons allow you to take on enemies, mine for supplies, or take on bosses, all of which will give you materials for your restaurant and ingredients for cooking. After 3 floors, you'll take on a mini boss, and after 6 floors, you'll take on a larger boss and close the dungeon. Now, the dungeon aspect, in my opinion, is probably the weakest part of the game for a number of reasons. In general, I wasn't a huge fan of the isometric camera style, as it blocks a lot of your view when you're scavenging around, which isn't a big deal, but when combined with the little awkward movement and aiming, it can take some getting used to. The biggest thing is the game gets extremely grindy as it goes on, which some people may like, but a lot of others will get a bit bored with. For example, let's say you need a specific ingredient like 20 potatoes, but the dungeon at the time only generates like 6, and you'll have to wait another day to go back in again. Basically, just be ready to repeat dungeons over and over to gather those same resources. Also, whatever you do, don't die, because you basically drop everything useful, and it can be a waste of a half hour of grinding through a dungeon, and in my opinion, it's a bit too punishing for a game like this. Now, the highlight of the game for me, even if it involves grinding for supplies prior, is getting to design your restaurant. I really enjoyed all the different pieces of furniture and decorations and getting to lay them out however I wanted. The game has a simple to use customization tool, and you can really get creative. Seeing my tiny food shack grow into a massive restaurant capable of handling 50 customers at once was a cool incentive to keep playing. Now, I really haven't talked about this yet, but a large part of the game is actually running your restaurant and is the main way you'll make money. At any point during the day, you can open your doors and customers will flock in to order meals using those ingredients you gathered from dungeons. The gameplay here is kind of like a poor man's Diner Dash. Basically, customers will seat themselves, order on their own, pick up their food with no cleaning up involved. It evolves a bit with some customers later on requiring you to deliver their food, but that's pretty much it. You'll just have to cook the food, which amounts to pressing a couple of buttons, and check them out at the register. There really is no skill or challenge here at all, and yes, very repetitive. I wish the game really sank in here on the management side, allowing you to create a menu, or went the overcooked route with more hands-on cooking. Either would have taken the gameplay up several notches. In the end, Cuisineer is a decent game where the concept works well, but the execution of it feels a little bit underbaked. I enjoyed upgrading the restaurant and designing the layout, but once the restaurant is open and customers start coming in, it's just a little too basic and boring. And again, could have been so much more. This could have been a cooking and management skill-based game versus just what essentially is a point-and-click simulator with very little repercussions. Again, it isn't bad, but it could have been way more engaging. The second part of the game, the dungeons aspect, is also just okay. It gets a little bit too grindy and becomes a chore versus maybe mixing up the rewards a bit more or having an actual skill tree for your character versus everything being tied to a very tedious upgrade of your weapons. For me, Cuisineer gets a decent 78. The balance of exploring and restaurant managing is a unique gameplay experience. The art and theme are decent as well, but I am curious if someone could take this concept and flesh it out a bit more. So yeah, thanks for watching this review, guys, and I'll catch you next time.